we are conducting this meeting remotely, and individuals willing to participate can do so utilizing the Zoom video conferencing technology. To join by video conferencing using a computer or tablet, you should just click on the link which is available on our agenda, which can be found on the town website. Alternatively, you can also connect to this meeting via telephone, and a number is available on the agenda as well. We are using Zoom webinar feature. So those of you that are not panelists, which means you will not be presenting, are put in a secondary category and you will not be viewed on the screen. However, if you would like to say something during the open comment, or if you are a panelist and we have not given you panelist rights, please raise your hand, use the little icon, and we will take care of that for you. And Chris, Jody Shu is here as well and would like to have access.
So is Val Lynn.
Yep.
And Katie Williams.
Right.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Chris is ahead of us.
Right. So the first item of business this evening is citizens' comments. Again, if you have a comment you would like to make, please raise your hand or type something in the Q&A section of Zoom, and we will bring you into the call.
George has his hand up, but George, you're a couple agenda items away, so we'll let you in just a moment.
How do you see that? I don't.
If you go to participants.
Oh,
and
you're in
click on
participants. Okay.
Attendees.
All right. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Are you impressed with my technology knowledge?
I am very impressed. All right. So moving right along, now that we've taken care of everybody, the first item of business is actually a joint meeting with the planning board. And so, Carol, do you have to call a meeting? So would you like to do that?
Good, thank you very much. I'm going to call a meeting of the planning board starting at 6:34 p.m. and I'm going to take a roll call vote. Jody Shu.
Here.
Val Lynn.
Here.
And of course, I'm here, so that's our quorum of 3. Thank you.
All right, and you just reminded me that I did not take a roll call vote to open our meeting, so I will do so now. Robin Hunter, present.
Dave Haviland, present.
Okay, so now we can let you move on.
Okay, thank you. So we're on to agenda item 1?
Yep.
Very good. Okay. So we're here tonight to ask for your vote to approve Katie Williams as the newest member of the planning board as an associate member. Scott Friedman, who had been a member, left town back in June. So that opened up a full voting position. And Val Lynn, who had been our associate member. An associate member is a 2-year term, non-voting, but participatory. So Val Lynn, back in August, came before you after the planning board suggested that, and we voted in a joint meeting, Val Lynn to fill the full term of Scott until the next election in May. That left the associate position open, and we went through an interview process after promoting the opening through social media and the Dover website and so forth, and we got 3 candidates, which is really quite amazing.
Which is wonderful.
We interviewed each of them, and in our December meeting, we voted to ask Katie Williams to join us as an associate member. She will have to run for the full spot in May, and we'll do so starting with the March Town Caucus. But so we're here tonight to do the planning board vote, which we did in December, which we can do again tonight, and your vote as well to accept Katie.
So I'm not, does the planning board need to vote again, Mike?
They do. So this is a vote of all the boards combined. So the 2 boards in totality.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's why we needed to have a quorum tonight.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to quickly introduce her.
Right, I was gonna ask her if she wanted
Okay.
to introduce herself, so,
And she will. Just
okay.
very briefly, she is a commercial real estate attorney, and we were very fortunate to find a commercial real estate attorney to join the planning board, as have had one or two in the past, and it's been very, very beneficial to us. And she currently practices law at McDermott, Will, and Emery in Boston, and I will let Katie say a few more words.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, everyone. So Carol summed it up. I have been a commercial real estate attorney for a little over 20 years. My family and I are going on our third year now in Dover. This is our last stop. I have two daughters, and I'm very eager to bring whatever qualifications that I have that would be helpful for the town of Dover, specifically to the planning board. So,
So Katie, welcome to Dover.
thank you.
We are really thrilled that you are volunteering for the planning board. I hope you find being part of a board and committee as rewarding as I have. It's been a great way to really get a feel for the town and understand how the town operates. And without people like you and all of us here, we really do play a vital role in supporting our staff. So thank you very much, and just thrilled to have somebody with your expertise, learning the ropes on the planning board.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Yeah. Dave, would you like to say something?
I'll just echo our thanks to having you step up, and Carol, hopefully having multiple volunteers might give you a bench. So that's a wonderful position to be in. But Katie, your skill set sounds perfect. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And with that, I see no issue not to move to appoint Katie Williams to the planning board as an associate member to fill the unexpired term of Val Lynn ending on May 19th, 2025.
Second,
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
hi, Dave Haviland.
And now
And
the planning board.
I will use the same motion that you just made, and it's I, Carol Lisbon, Val,
I, Val Lynn.
and Jody.
I, Jody Shu.
Great.
So
Katie,
now you
welcome.
are
You're now official.
officially an associate member of the planning board, if there was any doubt before.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And you're more than welcome to stay for the next item of business, because it actually is some more planning board business. So we are on agenda item 1.2, and this is going to be a request by the planning board to host special, and the Board of Selectmen to host potentially two special town meetings in connection with our compliance on the MBTA Communities Act bylaw, which would accompany some proposed changes to the town of Dover's zoning map. So Carol, I'm going to turn it over to you, and maybe you could give a really quick summary of why we're proposing this town meeting. So just to be clear, we're not deliberating this evening on the MBTA Communities Act. Rather, we are setting town meetings for the town to vote whether or not they want to accept our recommendation for later on in 2025. And these town meetings are required in order for us to be compliant with this new bylaw. So Carol, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, let me just briefly explain how we got to this point. So back in 2021, there was a law passed in Massachusetts called the MBTA Communities Act. It affects 177 towns and cities, basically in the Boston area, because as it's implied, the MBTA has to be either going through your town or adjacent to your town. So for Dover, we are considered a small adjacent community because we have Wellesley and Needham that do have MBTA tracks. That gives us until December 31 of 2025 to change our bylaws and designate an overlay district to meet the requirements of the act. Jody Shu is spearheading the project for us on the planning board and has developed a incredibly detailed action plan that will get us to town meeting in the fall. So in order to sort of complete the timeline and be able to work backwards as well as forwards on the timeline, we would prefer to have firm dates set up for this special town meeting. Now, based upon the SJC ruling regarding Milton, it's clear
This week. It's
this week, it's clear.
fresh ruling.
Yep, it's clear we have to proceed. According to town council in a conversation today, there is nothing in the ruling that seems to, at this point, impact Dover, so we need to proceed on the plan that we've established. So we're asking for two town meetings, one in the end of September and one in November, just in case we have a problem, as some towns have had in Massachusetts, in passing both the bylaw, which impacts the zoning aspects of a multifamily community, and the overlay district, which is identifying an area in Dover that could be built as a multifamily housing development. We're required to do 102 units in 7 acres by law. Doesn't have to get built. So we have done quite a bit of research and have already started populating a website with all kinds of information about this new act and what we are doing about it. So I urge citizens who might see this tonight to go to the Dover website. Towards the bottom of the homepage, there's a big box that says Dover Housing Task Force. If you click on that, you'll eventually get to the MBTA Communities Act. You can also get to it by searching for specific words, land use and housing development, through the Board of Selectmen or through the planning board pages as well. And we have a plan for education, for input. It's important for us to hear comments and suggestions by the town citizens, which we'll be doing over the next 4 or 5 months. So that's the purpose of tonight.
Right, and I think it's important for those listening tonight or that will listen later on that this is a process that we're required to go through. We've done a lot of work. No decisions to date have been made. We will make sure that there are many information sessions for town citizens to attend, but an excellent start would be to begin to look at that website and for people to educate themselves on the requirement of the MBTA Communities Act. And we will continue to populate it with new information as it becomes available and as we have a better idea of what the potential sites may be for Dover after working with our consultants.
Jody, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Okay.
So then Dave, would you like to add anything or do you have any questions?
No questions. I did speak with Jim Repetti, and he will be here for both these dates. Mike, I'm going to assume you've spoken with Felicia and the Mudge Auditorium has been reserved and all that.
Yep, the planning board coordinated with Felicia to make sure it was available. Absolutely.
Perfect. And then the only person we haven't asked yet, then at least I haven't, is Kate Canny. Is she around? Because it's important to have moderators when you have a town meeting. So I tell you what, I'll give her a call tomorrow.
Do we have a backup to the backup?
Yeah. Well, that's why Jim actually called me and said, hey, I heard rumors that we were going to have 2 town meetings. Can you tell me when they're going to be? And I had just gotten this packet from Mike. So I told him and went from there.
All right. So with that, I'm going to move to hold a special town meeting on September 29th and November 17th, 2025, if needed, for the purpose of voting on the proposed MBTA Communities Act bylaw and accompanying proposed changes to the Town of Dover zoning map.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
All right, now we can begin the hard work.
Yeah.
Now we can continue with the hard work. So
Yeah,
Jody, it's
exactly.
all on you now. So no pressure.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and again, welcome, Katie and Jody. Thank you for all that you're doing with
Thank you.
MBTA.
Thanks for your support. I would say that for anybody listening, we really need your input and we want your input. So please keep an eye out for the town newsletter, the town website. We're really looking for citizen input so that we can craft a bylaw and a location for this overlay district that really responds to town, input. So thank you.
And compliance with
And compliance, exactly.
Right. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Chris.
so now we're going to move along to item 1.3, and I
If
think
you
we
could let
should
George
let
in, Chris,
George
which you're
in.
probably doing.
Yep, I'm on it.
I don't see him as a panelist anymore. Oh,
There he is. He's coming.
All right. Okay, so George, welcome to this evening's meeting. As you know, as part of our community engagement and communication goal, we have made a determination that we're going to invite boards, committees, and commissions to attend the Selectmen's meeting to provide residents with an update on their roles and activities. And you are the newly appointed Board of Appeals Chair, and we thank you for taking on that role. And we know your board has been very busy, and we thought this would be a great opportunity for you to let the town know, what what the board has been working on, and how you've come up to speed with everything that's going on in the town. So thank you again.
You're on mute, George.
How is this?
Much better.
Much better.
Oh, that's great.
George, I got to let everyone know, though, that we're neighbors and your backyard looks a lot better than mine right now. So,
Well, thank you.
great picture.
That's damning by faint praise. But first, yeah, listen, this is, it's a real privilege. I'm glad you asked me to do this starting August 1. And what has made it enjoyable is really the four great people I serve with. And just let me, give a pitch here. Laverne Lovell, Nadir Ahmed, Michael Donovan, and Nancy Green. They are long-term veterans of the board and have just been invaluable to me, getting me up to speed. I'd also like to say I've got big shoes to fill. Alan Fryer, who was the chair for years, did a magnificent job, and I know he is in Cape Cod right now, but left things in very, very good order, and that's been good. Now, what the board does, to some extent, we overlap with the planning board. We are involved in land use, but in a different way. We essentially, most people who come to us, it's because the building inspector has denied something they want to do. That maybe they'd like to build a house on a land of adequate dimension, but might need a little help on the sideline boundaries because they can't really put the house where they would want due to some wetlands in the back. There are different issues. That's what you would call a variance. And the building inspector, we've got a great one. Walter will, he will deny any application that is not exactly the way it should be. But at times there may be an opportunity for a variance. We don't do things like shrink the amount of dimension that's needed. But at times, if we meet the standards in the bylaw, we might be able to grant a variance. So that's one thing we get involved with. We also get involved in granting special permits for a number of reasons. And one thing for the audience I'd like to point out, because a lot of people don't really understand this, with Airbnbs and that type of opportunity, it's possible to rent your home for less than 30 days and sometimes for weekends. Many people don't know that that actually requires a special permit from the board. And the building inspector recently referred such a case to us, and we went through a fairly rigorous examination of this, including knowing from the neighbors, have there been any problems? And we got wonderful testimony in this one case that, in fact, a group of young ladies who were wanted to rent because of a bridal party, they were declined by the owner simply out of concern that there might be a loud party. And we thought that really showed that, well, that's, if we're going to have short-term rentals, that's important. But there were also neighbors who were concerned on that issue. We just don't know who's going to be attending, and we're just concerned in concept. But our law is very clear. Short-term rentals, less than 30 days, anything more 30 or more doesn't require our approval. But something that short-term people should come to us for that. And if they don't, they're really in violation. So special permits of that sort are important. We sometimes get asked to rule on grandfathering. We had a 2-unit dwelling on Farm Street. Now, everyone knows Farm Street is single family, but this was a grandfathered 2-unit building. And the application really was to essentially take down much of it and rebuild, but stay on the footprint. And the building inspector properly denied it. We went through it with council and determined that, yes, that particular situation would be grandfathered. I won't go into all the legal analysis for this, but that is also the sort of thing. And where most people actually see us these days, it's in the context of a state law that's known as 40B. And 40B, the pejorative term, I think, is called the anti-snob zoning law. That's what it's often thought of. And it's really addressed to towns that have our types of zoning. 1 acre, 2 acre zoning, single family, not multifamily. And 40B is a state statute that's been in existence for years and essentially says that if 25% of the units are priced at an affordable rate with financing that mandates that then the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we are the Zoning Board of Appeals, although our name is technically the Board of Appeals, we then need to address the proposed development according to state law requirements. And that means, as a practical matter, the planning board has no jurisdiction over a 40B development, because a 40B development is really a multifamily thing that our town would not normally be permitting under regular zoning. It's a strict law. If it is found that we are imposing conditions that make the project uneconomic, that's actually the term they use, the developer can go to the state. There's a Housing Appeals Committee, HAC, and they determine if the town has imposed unfair, uneconomic conditions, or they can decide that the town's done the right thing, that in fact, even though it is determined to be affordable, there are other problems with the development that simply mean it should not be approved. So that is something we deal with. 40B developments are very emotional, and understandably, people are often concerned that a multifamily project near their home could hurt the values. And as we know, lots of people in Dover, one of their main investments is their home. So this becomes a very, very emotional issue. But that is itself not something that the Board of Appeals is supposed to take into account. We're supposed to really be impartial and determine is the project approvable under state law. We have actually right now we have a development that is before the Housing Appeals Committee right now, where the proposal was denied, and it's really at a motion stage. It involves a project. I won't go into all the details, but we don't know yet what the outcome will be of that. But the board did determine that the project was not appropriate. We have a new project that's being proposed on Tisdale Drive to add 42 rental units. And we're in the process of conducting a hearing right now. It's a multi-session hearing. Our hearing process started in early November, and we really have 180 days to determine one way or the other. The process is we hire special consultants, and the developer pays for those consultants. And in fact, I'll be meeting for a couple of hours tomorrow with those consultants, and we have another session of our hearing Tuesday. One thing we're doing, and then I'm going to quit because Notre Dame will be kicking off pretty soon. I don't want to hold everyone too long. One thing we are doing is really populating the website as much as we can with information to keep citizens current, especially for the 40B proposals. If you go to the Board of Appeals portion of our website, and then look to the left-hand side, we do have, and Chris Costello, I know you and Mike were very involved with this. We have line items, and if you click those, you can find, for example, with the Tisdale Drive one, everything from the very, very beginning of the process, going to the state, a listing of the town objections that were filed to the state, the letter from the state that basically disregarded many of the town's objections, and the process that's gone on since, including minutes and letters. Just today, we've recorded letters from the developer's attorney. So for anyone who wants to stay up to date and actually see what's being filed, it's not a black box. It's right there on the web. And I really do thank our town staff's been wonderful. And that's, in fact, it's just a pleasure working here, because people do care. Our people who work for us, work with us is more the way I would think of it. It's just excellent. Do you have any questions? We're trying our best. We are.
So George, first of all, I'd like to thank you and your committee. This was really very, very informative. And just like all board meetings, the Board of Appeals, they are recorded, and people can also go back at a later date and view those recordings. I think just as a reminder, it's also good to let citizens know that the town of Dover is not compliant to date with 40B. So 40B, I believe, requires that 10% of your housing stock is affordable housing, and the affordable housing is based upon a specific formula that the state has
Yeah.
put together.
In fact,
And
you know what? Let me just, a very interesting detail, many may not know. Uh, when the project is designed as an ownership project, which has always been the case until recently, 25% of the units are affordable, and the other 75% are actually considered market rate, and they actually boost this 10% requirement. It seems a bit ironic.
right,
In
right,
the case of rental projects, which are also market rate and more affordable, every one of the units counts as affordable because of the financing, the way it's structured, and the way the statutes were structured. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we have 10% affordable either way, but you raise a good point, Robin.
right.
Please proceed.
And George, and that is a good point, that when you do have rental properties, 100% of the units count towards the requirement. And again, as a town, we have valid concerns. We don't have infrastructure for water or sewer. And we are not trying to avoid building these units, but we really have to be cognizant of our resources. And so, when we do object, it's due to valid concerns that we have. But at the end of the day, all we can do is submit those concerns to Massachusetts, and it's up to Mass Housing to make a determination as to whether or not they believe that our concerns are valid. So we really do appreciate all the work of the Board of Appeals, but citizens need to understand that we're working within a framework, and that's all we can do. We can just work through the framework and try our best to ensure that's what's being built in Dover fits with the feel of the town. So
Well, and I'll tell you, there's also a dividend only, and I say this only from limited experience with our hearings to date. The people who live in these 40B developments they are citizens
right,
just like us, great people,
exactly.
and just as concerned for their homes as everyone else in Dover. So there is a bonus to all of this. Getting some nice people we might not have had.
Right. I agree. Dave, would you like to comment?
Well, I just want to thank George. One is a great summary of your charges, which it's a nice even for someone like myself to hear them. And then thank you for taking over from Alan after he was there a long time. And it's always even more difficult when you're taking over not only big shoes, but longtime big shoes. So thank you for doing it. And as a fellow rookie, I wish you best of luck.
Right. And
Well, that's
should we
great.
be saying go Notre Dame?
Yeah, I understand our police chief, Mike, did I get this right? Our police chief has a son who's on the team?
He's the
Yes.
long
He's the
snapper.
long snapper. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, well, okay, go Dover, go Notre Dame.
Right. I think he may be redshirted this year. Is that right? Or is he?
No,
No,
he-
he was played last game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I saw him make
Okay.
a snap, and then he got in at the end of a tackle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I know
As a freshman, pretty impressive.
yeah, it's
So
very
is the
impressive.
police chief at the game?
Yes.
I
Excellent.
believe so.
Excellent. So go Notre Dame.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, go
Okay,
enjoy the
I'll-
game, and
I'll
we will
sign
try
off.
wrap up so that we can watch it
and
too.
you keep doing the town's work. Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank
Have
you
a great
very
night, George.
much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Much appreciated.
Bye.
So we can move to agenda item 1.4, and I believe we are going to have members of trustees of reservation and Hale Education to give us an update on the Hale reservations conservation restriction between those two entities.
So Chris, you could let all our attendees, all four in. And I don't know if you want to clear, just to clear the screen a little with so many people, if Carol and Val
Yeah.
want to go back to attendees.
Well, there's some familiar faces.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Is Jennifer going to join us, or is this?
Jennifer is at another governance meeting this evening. So you are stuck with the four of us, Robin.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Welcome once again. I know you're going to be presenting what I personally view as good news and a win-win for both trustees, Hale, and the town of Dover. So I don't want, and I know a lot of hard work went into this. And from my personal perspective, I really appreciate it. So I'm going to turn it over to all of you. So I don't want to steal your thunder. So.
Well, you're very nice. And we're here because we have such an exciting milestone to celebrate this evening and wanted to share that with you and with the citizens of Dover. I think everybody knows our colleagues on the screen. You know Rob Warren from the trustees and
Right.
Eric from Hale Education. Has everyone met Aaron Morehouse, the new?
No, that's a new face.
Aaron is the new executive director for Hale, so we are excited to have him on the team as well, and he's going to be commenting shortly. But I just wanted to set this up by talking about our partnership, because the partnership that we have been honored to have with the town of Dover, both as the trustees, and I'm speaking for a moment for Hale as well, from the concept of the conservation restriction to the moment where we are right now, has been pretty amazing. I mean, we have gone over so many hurdles together, and there have been ups and downs and successes and, crying and all kinds of things. But where we've landed is at this wonderful place. And it's because Dover has always been so professional, so transparent, so creative, and so trusted as partners to all of us. And we just want to thank you for that. And we also want to acknowledge Bob Spriggett, because he had so much to do with this effort. And, we are really indebted to him for his wonderful partnership as well. I also just want to call out Mike, because Mike has been a dream to work with. And Mike jumped into this project halfway through. I mean, he had a lot of catching up to do.
First thing,
yeah.
It may have been one of the first meetings he went to. He said, Mike, we have this great project for you.
Right. Here you go. Catch. So Mike has just been, wonderful and a stalwart supporter of all of this. So we've got a lot of news to share. We have some details to share as well. I know that Eric and Aaron wanted to say something quickly, and then we're going to jump in because Rob has the meat of this presentation and all the details to share. So a huge thank you to all of you and to the board and the citizens of Dover. We're thrilled.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, DA, you're spot on with so much of that, and the partnership has been so great. And I'm thrilled to be sitting here in this role, no longer as the executive director, but still working a bit with Hale on this project, and very happy that we are where we are. The concept that Hale started pushing around 2017 was this idea of, can we protect this land in perpetuity? And can we create some financial sustainability for the organization? And that was really the objective. We're thrilled to be where we are today and say that we are going to be accomplishing those. And I think a key part is we're going to be doing that without needing to go to the taxpayers for their specific support in this case. And that's really thanks to, and I want to really give a huge shout out to the many individuals in the town of Dover and local residents and variety of communities who really stepped up to support this effort. We wouldn't be here without their support, and we're thrilled for that. I will just say that I'm also thrilled as to where Hale is going. I'm going to quickly turn it over to Aaron, who has been now leading the charge at Hale since the end of the summer as the our new executive director, and we're thrilled to have him involved. But I, again, just want to echo DA's appreciation for the selectmen here in Dover, and Mike, your involvement all the way through. It's been a really great partnership, and we're thrilled to be where we are.
And you know, Eric, I would have to echo your comments and throw the ball back to you. I know at times things were really frustrating. We were trying to find a way to get to yes. Then COVID threw us a little bit of a curve ball, and we had to resurrect the project while we were still doing the remnants of while we were still dealing with the impact of COVID. And, you know, through it all, we had to have some difficult conversations, but I always appreciated both your DA's and Rob's transparency, honesty, willingness to work with us to try and find a way to get to yes, and listening to, you know, the concerns that we had, having to go to our taxpayers for this big ask. So, you know, as I said at the beginning, from a personal perspective, this is a phenomenal outcome. I would think, I don't know for a fact, that you worked tirelessly to get more donations than anybody ever dreamed of, and to make this a reality. So I can only thank you for your hard work and just say what a pleasure it was to work with you, even through the difficult conversations at times.
Yes, well, thank you, Robin. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate, you know, again, the honesty, the candor, and the way we worked through the whole project. And we're thrilled, and we're grateful for all the individuals who did step up. We exceeded our expectations through private philanthropy, and that is really a big chunk of why we're here. So
Was it DA's
I'll let
cookies?
Aaron, say that again. Go ahead.
I said, was it
What's that?
DA's cookies?
Oh
All
yeah,
those
DA's
farm store
cookies and all.
cookies, right? They're not
That's
my
right.
cookies. Chef T made those cookies, Robin.
That's right. That's right.
They always helped with those conversations. So
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna let Aaron just say a few quick words, and then we're gonna turn over to Rob, because as DA said, Rob has the meat and potatoes, sort of, as we say, of the storyline here. So
thanks for that, Eric. And I want to say, just to echo the gratitude to the community, to the town of Dover, to Eric, and the legacy that you have built and left here at Hale, and the many partners and collaborators behind this project to make it successful. I'd say I'm the beneficiary of a lot of amazing work that I have now been able to jump into and join this team at Hale. But really, the beneficiaries are all the future generations, moving forward, starting with the communities today and going in perpetuity, to be able to have this land, over 1,100 acres, permanently protected, for the public access and community enjoyment, and the education programs that Hale provides for the surrounding communities and for youth from across the region, the recreational access for our many neighbors, the many donors and individuals that came together to make this possible. Having spent more than 20 years in conservation elsewhere around the country, this is an extremely unique story, and just a really great success. And we're moving forward, and there is quite a bit to share. So I look forward. Michael, great to have met you earlier in the fall. Looking forward to meeting the rest of you, and those that are listening in or watching this. Looking forward to being able to meet other community members as I make my home here now. But I will just go ahead and pass it on to Rob so that we can get to the headline.
Great. Well, thank you, Aaron. And I'll just very briefly add my own appreciation of working with Mike and this select board and other select board members, as well as with Planning Board and Conservation Commission and members of the citizenry over a surprisingly long arc for this project, has really been tremendous. the whole community of Dover has proved itself to be an excellent partner at every life stage of this ongoing saga. So the story is at a well-advanced stage. So what I'd like to do this evening is very quickly, because I know time is short, but I'll try to get through some things and welcome questions. Touch briefly on the terms of the conservation restriction as it stands now, and then talk about the status of the project on its way to completion. Words I hesitate to say out loud until we're leaving the Registry of Deeds, but that's where we're heading. So the conservation restriction itself is very much as the members of this board and staff, town staff, have seen it before. It protects the bulk of the land owned by Hale. There is a bit of a change. Some of it will be conserved in fee ownership, most of it under conservation restriction. And there's a small portion at the Carby Street entrance that is not included in the conservation outcome, but will continue to be owned by Hale. And I'm happy to share maps as time allows, but I do want to be mindful of that. The conservation restriction really protects the bulk of the property, over 3/4 of the land area under the conservation restriction itself, essentially as woodland as it is today, as natural habitat, with trails available for recreational use, and protections in place to keep the habitat sustainable, viable, and ongoing long into the future perpetuity, ideally. Within the other quarter of the conservation restriction area, there are designated pockets where future buildings can be built, where more intensive uses can happen. That is, again, very much as it was when this group took its closest look at the deal structure. So there are so-called primary program areas where new buildings can occur, and where the kind of general, more intensive camp uses will occur. There are secondary program areas where there are a number of existing buildings which can continue to exist, but no new buildings in those areas. So again, we've really tried to push all the new buildings into a concentrated area. And then, as I say, over 3/4 of the land area will be immune from all of those impacts and protected in perpetuity. It's as you all know, it's a long and kind of messy to wrap your head around document. I think maybe one of the key changes from when you folks saw it is that there actually is provision for less total square footage of new buildings down the road. I believe when it last came to this group, it provided for up to 400,000 square feet of buildings in total, with the possibility to extend that to 500,000 with permission of the holders of the CR. We've eliminated that last part, that additional 100,000. So it simply has a cap, a hard cap of 400,000 square feet of buildings, and that is staged over time. So for the next 3 years, there's really only a modest amount of addition that can happen to kind of make sure that there are not rapid impacts on the ground there, and that then any future building could roll out over a longer period of time.
And again, the buildings will really support the programs and the mission of Hale. That's
right. Yes. It is tricky to, we can't really say this land can never be sold to anyone but, a nonprofit outdoor education or education-oriented organization. That isn't really the way real estate law allows us to work. But we've tried to create the constraints on the land use in a way that it is essentially an unpalatable property for anyone other, who is not trying to pursue the sorts of things that Hale is trying to pursue. The hope is that Hale thrives and continues itself into perpetuity, but we all recognize that it's a very long time and things can change. So we've tried to encumber the land in a way that pushes any future owners towards a similar kind of situation. Would a map be helpful to distinguish a couple of things that we're touching on? Mike, is that easy to let me share a screen?
You
Yeah,
know,
I
the
think
other
you
thing as
should
you
have
go
published.
through this, we're always looking for content for our newsletter.
Oh,
And we would love to be able to highlight this if there's a way to summarize it into a couple of paragraphs. It's also an opportunity to let people know about everything that goes on at Hale. I was fortunate to be given personal tours by Eric, and I don't think many people in Dover really know everything that happens there. So this could be an opportunity for you to highlight, Hale and the benefits of the CR to the town of Dover.
yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Chris, I got you content for the newsletter.
Always appreciate
Accomplishment
it.
for the
Thank
evening.
you.
I'm just going to ask, do we reach out to Chris? Because we
You do.
Yeah,
You do.
Please do. Yes.
Perfect.
Great. All right, I'm just going to share this quickly. Are folks seeing the map?
Yeah, there we
Yes,
go.
there we
Okay,
go.
great. So the red area, the red outlined area is the portion of Hale's property that will be under the conservation restriction. We are estimating that at 970 acres. Survey work is ongoing. So I guarantee you that all of the acreage numbers we talk about tonight will shift. But we are in a very small ballpark here, we believe. The GIS ability to do this is pretty good these days. The blue hatched area, my cursor shows up for you down here, that is approximately 138 acres owned by Hale today that will be conveyed by a simple deed to the trustees, and the trustees will then place a separate conservation restriction on that land to the Dover Land Conservation Trust. And so that blue hatched area will become trustees' ownership. But Hale will continue to have use of the trail network that extends onto that, which is an important part of their outdoor programming at this point.
So is that close to Strawberry Hill? Am I orienting myself?
No, we are south of that area. So the
Okay.
dark green right here is Powasset Farm, owned and
Okay.
operated by the trustees.
Okay.
The dark green to the north here is Noannet Woodlands,
Okay.
another trustee's property. The lighter green, these three are owned by the town of Dover. Some of them are privately owned, subject to conservation restrictions, held either by trustees or Dover Land Conservation Trust. Carroll Park is off the map up to the
Okay.
northwest here a little
All right.
bit.
Thanks. So that was very helpful, that orientation.
Yeah, great. So Dover Road, Powasset Street travels this line through the property right here. So the entrance that folks may be familiar with at Powasset Farm is right here. You enter the property at the north edge and move south onto that holding. And the entry area to Hale today is right here at Carby Street. And it's this area, roughly 60 plus acres, that is not being included in these transactions. And that's just an evolution in the discussions that we've had over that time. So at the end of the day, this 1,100 acres in red and blue will be protected land. The red owned by Hale under a conservation restriction to the trustees. The blue owned by the trustees under conservation restriction to the Dover Land Conservation Trust. With Hale continuing to have use of some of the recreational activity there, as will the public have use of those trails under trustees' ownership of that land. A quick look. It's going to let me progress. There we go. So this shows where those more intensive use areas are. The blue are those so-called primary program areas. All new buildings will happen within those. Most of the existing buildings on the conservation restriction property are already within those. The only buildings that are not within these blue bubbles are inside these orangey bubbles. And there's maybe a dozen buildings that are mostly quite small and spread around, but those are buildings that can be continue to be used and maintained. They can actually be enlarged a little bit. no single building, even approaches 1,000 square feet. These are small buildings that are kind of scattered around. We didn't want to expand these more intensive use bubbles to fold them in, so we created these separate bubbles for them with a less intensive use around the buildings. And then the last map I wanted to share is the public trail network. So these are the trails which, under the conservation restriction, will have guaranteed public access under appropriate management and regulation. But the CR actually grants to the public or to the trustees and Hale together to manage access for the public on this network of trails. So just thought I would share that as well. And it's over 11 miles of trail that we're talking about with assured public access. These are trails that the public is able to use now, but only because that's what Hale chooses. Management could at any time, or if ownership changed, new management could change the public use. The conservation restriction will guarantee that continued public use of the trail network. So moving from the terms of the CR, though I'll pause for any clarifying questions, but I do want to move us into the status of the project. All right.
I don't have any questions. That was really helpful.
Yeah, the map did help. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing like a picture, I find.
Right.
We're talking about land, and it gets very difficult to do with words. So great. So in Massachusetts, we are the only state in the United States of America where conservation restrictions that will be held by land trusts have to go through a public review and approval process. Under the law in Massachusetts that allows the creation of permanent conservation restrictions, it says that we need along the way to work with the town and get approval of the transaction from town government. After which we then need to gain the approval of the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs at the state level. And with the signature of those bodies on the document, it qualifies under the law as a permanent conservation restriction. We are not asking for any of that action tonight. This is really an update to let you know where things stand, and that we will be coming back, we hope, in the not too distant future with that question of approval. Where we are today, the conservation restriction document is fully drafted and agreed to by Hale and the trustees. We have submitted it to the Commonwealth for what we call a pre-review, so that they get a look at it and can discuss any questions or concerns they may have, so that when we bring it to the town, we know that it's in its final form. Because if we come to the town first and then go to the state, it could change, and now we're coming back to the town and taking more of your time and asking you to spend more of your attention on it. So we're doing the pre-review with the Commonwealth right now, and when we have that back from them saying, resolving any questions they have, we will then reach out and schedule with town to appear. Usually we appear first before the Conservation Commission and ask for a recommendation from them to their select board, and then appear before the select board and request approval of the transaction. After that, it does go back to the state for the secretary's sign off. The secretary wants to be the last one, so that is the final step. But at that point, everyone has reviewed everything, and that is a relatively procedural step in the process. And with that signature on the document, we can go record it at the Registry of Deeds, and the perpetual conservation terms are then in effect on the land. So there are two conservation restrictions that will be coming to you within that way. The large one on 970 acres, land owned by Hale, CR being granted to the trustees. And then the second smaller one on that blue hatched area on the map, about 138 acres, which at that time will be owned by the trustees, and we will be granting the conservation restriction to the Dover Land Conservation Trust.
And
so that's our story.
And typically, how long does the Commonwealth of Massachusetts take to do their review? Like, what's the time frame? When do think you'll be in a position to, to have a document that you can present to Concom and to the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, it is a perfectly reasonable and anticipated question. It is a little difficult to predict. The state
Okay.
review process has been rather backlogged for, well, a couple of years now. And so the timeline for review is a little unpredictable. We submitted it quite a few weeks ago. So it's, we're in the queue. That program, many conservation restrictions are tied to government grants and or tied to tax deduction gifts. So anything that for those sorts of reasons had to close by December 31st, the calendar year, those got priority in the fall review. We are now into January, and so we are hoping that ours will be coming under the scope quite quickly. If we are back here in a month, I will be pretty happy. I would not be surprised if it's a little bit longer than that.
Okay. All right.
So I apologize that we can't be more specific. We just have it's not exactly a black box process, but we have no throttle to control its pace.
Well, I was expecting you to say 6 months to a year, so I'm pleasantly surprised at how quickly it may be. So
I hope we're back here in February, but I can be overly optimistic about these things, which is what has kept me going as long as I have.
So, again, the timeline was really helpful. We'll give Concom the heads up, and as soon as you have something that you think, as soon as you have something that has been approved and addressed any comments from the Commonwealth, it would be really helpful for us to get that to look at and go over with legal counsel. Or
As
whatever
soon as we have a
do.
document that is resolved with the state, we will certainly be sharing that. We know folks need time with that before we're coming and asking for action on the transaction. So yes, we will be sharing that as soon as we have the document that we, is the one that needs approval.
Okay, that sounds great. And I mean, the good news is we are very familiar with the document. It has changed. Our name is no longer part of it, but we are familiar with, I'd say 80% of the document.
It is a very familiar set of terms, and the changes are largely in the wording and, in the nuance, not in the conservation outcome.
Right.
We've also reached out to the Conservation Commission so that we can meet with them and share, a similar bit of information. So they're in the same cadence as the select board is.
Excellent. Excellent. It seems as though you've thought of everything. So I don't have any additional questions. I really appreciate this update. As I said at the beginning, this is great news for the town of Dover, for Hale, for the trustees. I think it's worth a celebration at some point. Maybe some cookies at Poisson Farm.
I can take care of it. Okay.
Not that I'm asking, but Dave, do you have any?
There have been so many thank yous. I will just echo them. And I really appreciate the update and all the work that collectively you and many others have put in. So thank you.
Well, thanks for this opportunity. Appreciate your comments and your questions, and we look forward to the next step in the discussions.
Right.
Yes. I'll say good luck just in case.
Right. And don't forget, write an article. We'll feature you in our newsletter. So
terrific.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good
Good
evening.
night. Good night.
Take care.
Bye.
Oh, this is somewhat of a packed agenda.
It is.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, the next item of business is 1.5, and I think we're running a little behind schedule, but maybe we could make it up. And this is basically, we've done this before, and it's to approve an agreement between the town of Dover and the Small Water Systems Services LLC to be the licensed operator. And I believe this is for the small public water supply that we have, which consists of the Chickering Elementary School and the Carroll Park wells. And I believe annually we renew this, or am I wrong?
Yeah, no. So it was last. It was slightly more than a year. It was I'm sorry. Yeah, March 23 through December 24.
Right.
So this is a renewal. I'll just note, because it's unusual at this current time, the annual fee is staying the same as it was in the last renewal at $7,200. There is a small increase in the call for per hour when we have trouble calls that they come out outside of their normal visits. But other than that, all the other rates have stayed the same.
And Robin, it's a 2-year agreement.
Okay.
This one is, yeah.
Yep.
And also, I'm assuming that Carl Warnick, who's the secondary licensed operator, has been pleased with the service that's been provided by this.
Exactly, and that's why he wanted to bring this forward. Yep.
Right. So I looked at the agreement. I didn't have any questions. I don't have any additional comments. So Dave, I don't know if you have any questions.
I don't. I'm aware of this water system from many moons ago on school committee.
Right.
So we have to have an operator,
Exactly.
and this is a someone that's been vetted. If Carl likes him, that's even better. So I say we just go to a vote.
Okay, so I'm going to move to approve the agreement between the town of Dover and Small Water System Services, LLC. That is a mouthful. For licensed water operators effective January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Okay, so I think we made up some time here. So now item 1.6 is to approve an agreement with Novo Solutions for the Department of Public Works work order and citizen portal system. So is Kevin joining us? And I also saw in some of the literature that there's a lot more functionality to the system than just these two items. I mean, you can do some capital planning as well.
Just trying to share my screen. Let's see. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Great. All right. Good evening. Tonight before you, I am looking for the board's approval of a contract agreement with the town of Dover and Nova Solutions to implement a work order system here at the DPW. This will be implemented into our daily standard operating procedures. By doing so, this will incorporate all the existing GIS data that we've already captured, such as roads, sidewalks, guardrail, and signage, and assist with the accuracy and timely workflow of those repairs for such assets.
So Kevin, do you have other slides? Because it's not moving.
Yeah, I'm still on the cover page.
Okay,
So.
all right. Because it just seemed like so much information.
I know it's very exciting. So it's a long time coming for me as well.
Okay.
So using this tool will promote efficiencies and cost-saving benefits throughout the Department of Public Works. I want to thank my team, my office manager. This was kind of put on the SPD, the Special Projects Division, and it's something I've wanted to incorporate my entire time in Dover. We'll get into the why here. So the left is a simplified view that the field supervisors will be able to see on their tablet when creating work orders. The screen would appear from our department, allowing us to geolocate these issues and the assets with one tap while in the field. This will save time and efficiencies in resolving these issues and responding to resident requests. The right, this work is a picture of this work order system, which allows us to set the priority level for each work order we receive. It will be tracked, the work order when was submitted, along with the current status. Once a specific task or job has been completed, it can be uploaded with a complete timestamp. And it also has an option to upload a picture of the completed work. And what's very unique about this system is it's entirely customizable. So, if we don't like this or want to create any different form. There's no charge to do so, which is pretty unique in the software world.
And it's a web-based system, right?
Correct. Correct.
And we're just purchasing licenses.
That's
Like,
correct, Robin.
okay.
So the left is with the touch of a button, the Public Works Department, we can easily view all these assets on a map. This map can be customizable, allowing us to view either one of the assets, none of the assets, or all of them as needed. In the right shows, while using the map of the assets, a member from our department can click any individual asset, view the maintenance history. So you can go, as far back and list, the time it was last replaced or serviced, and any of the, you can actually put labor and time it took to do those repairs to track that as well.
So rather than having to constantly dig out all the maintenance records, everything will be there. So are you thinking about loading history for some of the assets?
Yes. So the main one for us would be kind of our fleet to track all the maintenance charges.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, when I first started in Dover and going through my first capital budget process, capital requests basically 3 years of service history. So that was virtually impossible when I first started, and took a lot of work to go back and try to figure out the repairs for the trucks. So basically I started in March, so trying to backtrack all those was very difficult. So in a very layman's work order system, that July I implemented going forward, every new part repair for vehicles, we just tracked an Excel spreadsheet. So, now my, I guess, third capital budget cycle, where it's easily accessible for me to go in there and grab, past charges and parts and that sort of thing to come up and derive those costs. But now this would be able to really, and we'll get into a slide with this, how thorough and detailed this can get as well. So the left screen allows us to view any of these open requests and can be assigned by our department to any particular employee with the Department of Public Works, depending on what task is, and what division it would be. It also assists with prioritizing these jobs to make sure that, we are prioritizing our work as, there's only a certain amount in each day, right? And not all requests is created equal. The right depicts the screen. Well, assist our department, right, with viewing these open requests in the map format. And again, being in the truck, being able to look at a tablet on this, could be, a day you want to derive your own work, and it allows for that as well. So another feature that is an option on this that we're going to be including is the Citizens Portal, which is shown in the picture here. So basically, you're out walking the dog, you see a pothole, you can snap a picture. There'll be a link on the website. So just really making us that accessible to the public to be able to provide that top level service. So the best aspect of all of this is that the system will allow these residents to submit these requests and reports with ease, and these requests appear in real time with those geolocations and, again, the picture capabilities. Whether it's a tree, a hazardous tree that they want the tree warden to look at, or again a pothole, or a sign's knocked over, or really it's any of those realms of maintenance that the DPW handles. And so this is just kind of the back end of you're out, you do that pothole request, such as that, right? It was at 5 Springdale Ave, the speed limit sign was leaning over on the right of way. So just kind of what that looks like and what the administrative side would see to do this and assign it to staff members. And then the other important key fact that we already touched on a little bit is that Nova Solutions has these reporting capabilities. So, these reports can be created in these graphs or tablets and exported into Excel spreadsheets, and will be extremely useful in trend spotting and assessing overall life cycle analysis. And it can track, the total hours and costs associated with each of those repairs for the fleet. And also, I guess, a timely ease that this would provide right now is kind of going back in time, trying to figure out catch basins repaired, signs repaired, and everything. We're unfortunately paper logging right now. We'd be able to query basically a year and do sign repair, and it would derive that and spit out that information, which would be super helpful, especially for Monday with the town report. Throwing out a plug for that. And then just in closing, implementing this work order system will assist our department in providing the best possible service back to the town of Dover. And so, and the photo depicted here is currently how we manage service requests. It's a 2-carbon piece of paper that gets handed out to the staff member, division member, where said request lies. So, and also just, in closing, just to be able to eliminate the paper and continue to modernize the department, which what I was tasked to do when I joined Dover, coming in on 3 years at this point, just to help us join the 21st age and be that much more accessible and accountable to the town of Dover.
So one may ask why it took so long.
Well,
you don't need to answer,
No,
Kevin. I was
just
just
he's
joking.
kidding.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need to go into that, but I had a rather long list from our former town administrator, so I've been chipping away at that. So this has been, so that was the town of Dover priorities we're chipping away at, and now this is, I guess, selfishly mine to improve my workflow in my department.
It's definitely bringing the DPW into the century, right? Because this is how most work orders are handled, when you look at other towns' websites. So I think this is a great initiative. I love that you're also going to be adding some of the history to the fleet, because I think ultimately that's going to really save time. So I also like that it's web-based, that it's so flexible and customizable. And I think, it will be a great tool for both citizens of Dover as well as employees of the DPW. Dave, do you?
Yeah, I got a couple things. One, I want to mention that today I had the opportunity to drive down Willow Street for the first time since that culvert's been replaced, and just to put in a thank you, because wow, it's a wee bit better, and great job by everyone involved.
Thank you.
My second question is, can this software handle trucks that were put into service in 1974? Does it go back that far in dates?
Yeah, no, it's so basically part of the implementation fee is all of our GIS data will get implemented to it, and also our master fleet list, which has been updated at this point.
Right, because you basically created it on Excel spreadsheets, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, our fleet list consisted of manila folders with titles and that sort of thing in there. So that was again important and kind of step one to this work. So
Kevin, I love the idea or the possibilities of improvement that the software brings. But we are in budget season. And so a couple of questions. Is this in your FY25 and FY26 requests?
Yeah, so this will be absorbed in my operating budget and professional
for this
services.
year, and then it's in your request for next year?
Yep.
Because as I'm sure you have gathered, the budget asks versus the budget's capabilities are likely not to match. And therefore, we might be asking departments to prioritize some other items. And without meaning to put you on the spot, is this something that would be a top priority for you in FY26, knowing that, let me just say theoretically that we have to come back and ask you to cut your budget by either X dollars or Y%. Do you think that this would survive it, or is it still on that? Because I love it, and the possibility of improvements are great. Will it
Yeah, it's
survive?
the pricing's obviously more expensive this year with the implementation, which is not a key factor next year. So I certainly can afford it this year, so I'd be able to absorb it next year as well.
Right, because it's already in the budget. We already assumed this was something we were gonna do, which is why the contract's coming to us now for approval.
That's what I want. So it was in 25. That's what I
Right.
needed to hear, and that
Right.
makes me feel a lot better
And
because
and actually the cost will go down in 26 because the implementation is a big piece of the
In the
cost.
training, yes.
right. I saw that. I wanted to make sure it was in 25, and so that's what I was looking for because 26 could be tough. But if it's in there, then it's not an ad in 26.
Right, I mean, these type of systems too, they give you efficiencies, which ultimately, in the end, help save money, like on overtime and things like that, because
Robin, you don't have to sell me. I'm in total
right.
agreement on the possibilities of improvement, of service, cost savings, all of that. Actually, it looks kind of like a neat program. And so my concern was on budget, but since it's not a new ad in 26, I'm happy. So I have no further.
All right, then I'm going to move to approve the agreement between Nova Solutions and the town of Dover for municipal operations management software.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Great. Thank you to the board. I appreciate your support on this initiative and look forward to rolling this out in the next couple of months.
I can't wait to use it.
Don't have a need
Oh,
to
no.
work order, but
You can't report
He's
things
gonna
that
walk
aren't
around
missed,
looking
so,
for stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I see
I'm
a
gonna
piece
do
of
a
bubble
test.
gum on the driveway, you're no. No, seriously, this is a wonderful thing for citizens to help you. I mean, if there's something, if a tree comes down on a street and they can snap it and send it to you, that's terrific.
Right. And it
Agreed.
also creates a log and things don't get lost. And, if you get a call about something not being addressed, you can look at the
Right.
system
It's time stamped and we
immediately.
can go
Right.
back and see what
Right.
the status is. So as the administrator, that's certainly a very important feature.
Super.
All right, well, thank you, Kevin. Oh, here's good news. Item 1.7 has been removed from the agenda and will be addressed at an upcoming
Good evening.
meeting when we actually have a contract that we can review. Oh, we made up
Yeah,
some.
so it came in today, and obviously I'd like to spend some time reviewing it and didn't feel comfortable bringing it forward. So
No.
hopefully your next meeting, it'll be
Right.
before you.
Right. I was very happy because we're running behind schedule.
Yeah,
Right, so the
Mona's
next
got an
item,
Mona
you're the
set the
pres-
time limit, and I have an over/under bet with her. So
With who?
Mona.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm gonna
here's
do
my
my
clue.
best to get us back on track. So
Yes.
the next item is the discussion and vote regarding service animals in the workplace and the town's policy. So I'm going to turn that over to Mike.
So just in brief, some questions had come up about animals in general in the workplace. We do have that on occasion here. Some conversation with Robin Tassino, HR director, and she actually went through our policy. Saw we had nothing that addresses that, and noticed we had a missing piece, which is service animals in the workplace. So she worked, with some of her colleagues to look at what exists in other communities. She worked with our labor council and then went before the personnel board, who approved this policy at their last meeting. So the procedure then is they approve it, and then it comes to you for final approval and implementation. So as I said, council reviewed this. It's in full compliance with the ADA and kind of outlines the responsibility of someone who may require a service animal. There's a form that's been drafted so we can have a record and collect the necessary information that's required in the policy. So I'd look and recommend your vote tonight. The only thing that I will say is the town administrator, I will implement the policy on your behalf. And I will suggest or foreshadow that we will find a date certain to implement it. We would like to give a little notice to some of the employees that on occasion do bring their animals to work so they can provide alternative doggy daycares and things of that nature. So it
There's
won't be a
one in
long period,
Dover.
but just a short period. There you go. There you go. So so if you have any questions, be happy to answer them, but I'd recommend your approval.
Right. So, to me, I'm somewhat surprised that I'm glad Robin started looking into this. I'm assuming that under the ADA, we are required to allow service animals in the townhouse. And, I personally am a dog owner and love dogs, but not everybody has had positive experiences. So I think having this type of policy is the right thing for us to do. And I like your idea of letting people know that this policy is coming into place and will be in effect so that they don't inadvertently violate it. So I have no questions.
I read through it, Mike. I thought it was well written. And now that you explained all the boards and people who have looked at it and read it or produced it rather, that makes sense. So I have no questions. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so I move to approve the service animal in the workplace policy dated December 16th, 2024.
Second,
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
I, Dave Haviland.
Did we need to amend that motion to say that we leave it to your discretion with respect to
No,
implementation?
so given that I enforce the policy, I think
Okay.
we'll notice people it's been adopted and this is I'll set an enforcement date.
Okay, all right, great. All right.
Thank you.
So you're up again, Mike. It's
Yeah.
that time of the year. The warrant closes tomorrow. It's already January 10th. And so far, I believe you do have a general idea of what may be on the warrant. So you're going to share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So given the warrant hadn't closed yet, we were hesitant to produce a written document yet.
Makes
but we'll have
sense.
that for your next meeting. But I do have a draft going. We have two citizen articles, petitions in hand with signatures. We anticipate potentially a third coming in hot tomorrow. So if that comes to fruition, right now we have 37 warrant articles, which is about, I think that's 10 more than last year. But as always, some of these are placeholders submitted by departments. So some, for example, one with the planning board was submitted, but we anticipate they may hold it for a future year. So there may be some changes to that. But as normal, we have all our kind of annual articles. Some of the potential new ones this year include a number of new or combining of existing revolving funds. There's the cemetery is looking at a couple. One is for weekend burials in terms of they charge for those, and so instead of the overtime for those coming out of the general fund, the money going in and coming back out for those costs. They're also looking at potential columbarium, and so looking at setting a revolving fund for that. The Board of Health and Building Department currently have a number of separate revolving funds that don't make a lot of sense. So we're looking at maybe potentially combining them into one smaller one for them. And then there'll be a potentially new one related to the stormwater bylaw for tree mitigation, which is a component of that. So those are some new ones. We've talked through already, and I think you've seen the memo perhaps from the planning board for a number of their articles. The assessors have submitted a couple related to what's called the HERO Act. It's some new veteran property tax exemptions. So we'll look at those. The Board of Fire Engineers is looking at a couple of things. One is an appropriation for a one-time project. They're looking to do a fire department operational assessment. So to bring in a consultant to look overall at their operations. The other is just a placeholder, but looking at the position of fire chief and the potential of in their budget, looking at perhaps making it full time, and then some of the responsibilities of the fire chief, and then some ability to accept some sections of Mass General Law to kind of change how that works. So they're looking at some of that as well. And then the two citizens petitions we have in hand, one is for design of a sidewalk. One is to amend the schedule of use table in our zoning bylaw. And there's one other potential coming in that involves acceptance of a public way.
I'm sorry, what was the third one, Mike?
Potentially an acceptance of a public way, acceptance of a street.
Okay.
So there's a street right now that's it's a private way, and they're interested in having it become a public way.
Thank you. You just bleeped out for a minute, so thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
He's in Dover, I
So,
think.
yeah. So we've, we'll finish and tighten this up once tomorrow closes, and then we'll get you a copy of this. And then, as always, we'll work through it, make adjustments as things drop or tweak as we get closer to town meeting time.
And Mike, the ordering of the warrants occurs weeks from now,
later.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we keep a general order. So, usually historically we've done financial and budget articles followed by zoning and planning, then, kind of more general articles, and then lastly, the citizens petitions.
So if I could just ask, when you get the final list and give that to us, if you could send a copy to Jim Repetti.
Absolutely, of course.
I'd tell him, but I don't dare tell him there's 37 articles. I'm going to duck.
I'll make sure it's very clear. This is draft, subject to change.
Wow. Okay.
And that's all I had for that.
All right. 2010.
Okay. So now we're going to move along to item 1.10, which I know for a fact is an annual item. And it is the ambulance rate discussion and vote. And on an annual basis, the treasurer and collector makes a recommendation to us regarding the reimbursement rate that we receive for basic life support, which is our ambulance, as well as advanced life support, specialty care transportation, and mileage ambulance rates. Typically, what happens is we look at our rates and then look at increases across the Commonwealth and see how other towns have increased those rates. I think over the past few years, we've actually increased our rates to bring them more in line with surrounding communities. Is that a correct statement?
So I think you had done that, and I think
Right.
now we're at the point where the recommendation is just to match the Medicare
Right.
rates, right?
Right. So we had done that in the past, and now the recommendation by our interim treasurer and collector, based upon information that she pulled together, is to increase our rate by 2.4%.
Right.
So I do not have an issue, from the information that was attached in our package. A lot of information was pulled together and vetted, and I believe that this is a fair increase for this year.
I would say that not only is it not fair, but given the inflation rate over the past year, it's very reasonable.
Right.
So,
and it's in line with other communities. So
exactly, but it's also we're going with the Medicare increase, so we're not going off the rails here. We're doing what needs to be done to stay current with cost.
right. So that being the case, I'm going to move to increase Dover's current ambulance rate by 2.4% for 2025.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Okay, now this is the fun stuff, I guess. As you all know, a couple of months ago, we put in place a Sustainability Committee, and I think this is going to become a really important committee in Dover. There's a great charge trying to help the town put policies in place to and take actions to reduce our carbon footprint. Anna Nagy had volunteered. This was her idea. She volunteered to be the chair. And she has done a tremendous job reaching out to the community to get citizens at large to be members of this committee. And this evening, she has asked us to appoint Patricia Hudson to the Sustainability Committee. And for me, this is a huge coup for Anne. I'm not sure if whether or not many people know Patricia's background. So I am going to read an email that I received from Anna, in which she made her recommendation and also provides a short introduction to Patricia Hudson. So she said in her email to me that we, meaning the Sustainability Committee, is excited to recommend Patricia Hudson to join the committee as a member at large. Patricia is a longtime Dover resident with a career in global finance where she specializes in climate change. She has most recently served as executive director for the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, and she has advised UN climate change advocacy efforts for several years. Patricia also has detailed practical experience and with systematically converting her home to a more sustainable one, which she will help inform our local efforts to support residents in similar projects. Patricia has a deep understanding of Dover and climate change policy, and the committee looks forward to her many contributions to the Sustainability Committee. So again, I would like to thank Patricia. She's a busy woman for volunteering for this committee. I believe her contributions are going to be invaluable to us as a town. Also her history, she's lived in Dover for many years, and I think that's going to be helpful as well as we begin to educate the town about the various sustainability projects that potentially are available to us.
I think that's well said.
Right. And I really, Anna is knocking it out of the park. I mean, everywhere, even this little blurb. The one place where she is a little frustrated is trying to get a student members of this committee. There is actually no interest so far at the Dover Sherborne Regional School for anyone. She did reach out again to the school. There is interest from Sherborne students that this is a Dover committee. So Dawn had also suggested that maybe she extend this opportunity to kids in Dover that go to private school. We may find somebody that is interested. So Anna was going to find a way to try and reach out to those students.
What about Dover students in college?
That's a good idea. I mean, you could, as long as they're still residents of Dover, I guess.
Agreed, of course. Right. But I was just trying to think what would be a cohort of people where these types of topics would be top of mind, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So I like the private school. I'm shocked that no one from DS is interested, but if they're really not, then we should get students on here. So there's two more avenues.
Right, so there is a sustainability club at the high school, and there's nobody from Dover in that club. So they're gonna try and reach out to students different ways to let them know that this opportunity is available. But, I think reaching out to all students in Dover is also a good thing. So I'm going to move to appoint Patricia Hudson to the Sustainability Committee as an at-large member for a term ending on June 30th, 2027.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
So now we are going to move to a standard item on our agenda. And it's just an update on fiscal year 25 goals and priorities. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on a couple things tonight as we continue to progress on these. So first, our Board of Selectmen office hours continue. Robin.
Oh, you stole my update.
All right, I'll save it then. I'll save it. All right.
No,
So Robin will talk about
it's
that.
fine. I'll just cross it off my list. That's fine.
So just a reminder in case people are watching, Robin will be here at the townhouse in the Selectmen's meeting room on Monday the 27th from 4 to 6.
And I'm in competition with Dave. How many people signed up for him so far?
11.
0.
I think we have one actually.
Oh,
we have one.
Excellent.
So yeah, you won't be totally lonely in there. Also, Chris, a few projects Chris is spearheading that are making moves here. One is the art aggregation RFP. I think if it wasn't, it's about to be issued, which is exciting. So those will be consultants that will help us implement the program. So it's exciting to get that live after town meeting voted last year. We're also, in terms of just technology projects, Chris has been dealing with I think it's fair to say, a frustrating project to replace our phones within the townhouse. So that was going to happen yesterday, but there was a bit of a hiccup with Verizon, so that's been pushed probably to the end of the month. But that'll be happening, and we do not anticipate any service interruption, but we will. If we experience that, we'll get word out to the public. We're not ignoring phone calls if we have.
So who's going to be the voice of Dover?
That's a good question. I didn't ask Chris that.
That will be determined, to be determined.
We could hold a competition. Do you want to be the voice of Dover?
And the last update I had, which I'm personally most excited about, is just this week, the grant application for the online permitting system opened. So Chris has already done a lot of work. We've worked on preparing our application. We're just getting some of the final things together that we need, and that'll be submitted before the deadline and before the grant application closes. So we're really, really very excited about that. That will, we are feeling very confident about the grant, but if we don't get the grant, we don't want to go another year without online permitting. So we are including money for that in our budget, but we're very hopeful that we can pull that out. So that will have to be as part of the operating budget for this first year. Going forward, the normal operating costs, of course, would be, but we're hoping this first year and all the implementation will be covered by that grant. So stay tuned, and I hope to give you a very good update sometime maybe later in February.
Well, thank you both for carrying those balls forward, because they are deliverables to the town and citizens of Dover. So that's going to be a great thing to be able to share when you get it across the finish line. So thank you.
And it will definitely address a frustration that many citizens have voiced.
Right, and it's one of those projects where there's support from every department, every board and committee, any resident I've spoken to. It's just all around. Everyone thinks it's going to be great, so we're excited.
Well, thank you, Mike. And it was a lot of information and I truly appreciate your brevity. So I'm going to try and do the same thing because I'm tend to be long-winded. So the next item is, if so long as I didn't skip an item, is item 1.13, and that is Board of Selectmen updates. It has been a really busy first week of January. Um, this is my fourth night of meetings. So the first night was the planning board, and there was some discussion about the replacement of the fuel tanks at the town garage. And I think we need to follow up. The site plan was reviewed was approved with conditions by the planning board. However, I believe we have to have another review because proper notice wasn't provided. But that is almost a silver lining because it will allow us to address some of the questions that were raised during that hearing. And what I thought I would do, Mike, is just work with you and give you a list of some of the issues that I heard at that meeting, and maybe we could touch base with the planning board as well. We might as well start working on those answers now since time is of the essence. And that leads me into my Tuesday night meeting, which was capital budgets, where this item came up as well. So I will take the responsibility to get as many questions together so that we only do this once and we don't waste time, because really clearly time is of the essence. At capital budgets, we also got the first look at the total ask for this fiscal year, which is 2026. And then also we looked out at the next 4 years. As we expected, the ask for fiscal year 2026 are quite big. They're over $5 million to date. But it was expected, and I reiterated to capital budgets that what we plan to do is pull together the budget with all the requests in there. And then based upon the town's financial strategy, which we've been pulling together the budget based upon that strategy over the last 5 years, whereby we want to decrease the increase in the tax rate, not have any overrides, and try to absorb debt that will be serviced under the tax levy. So this will be the absolute worst case budget. Based upon that, we'll figure out what our overage is and then work with different boards and committees on trying to prioritize and see if there's a way for us to make the 2026 budget and beyond work. So, that was the approach we agreed to, and I feel strongly that we need to stick to that and make sure that all the boards and committees understand that this is not going to be arbitrary this year. We're going to have an amount that we need to reduce the budget by and see if we can do it. And if not, we have to figure out what the alternatives are if they're priorities that we can't address. We also, on Wednesday night, there was a warrant committee meeting. I would like to thank Mike and Carl Valente. We also committed to the warrant committee, given that there were so many new members, that we would, do a little financial budgets in the town of Dover 101. Mike pulled together an excellent high-level presentation. The best part of the presentation last night was the interaction that we had with members of the warrant committee. They are really engaged. They understand better their role. For them, also getting a preliminary budget early on in the process will make things easier for them and not require that departments come back more than once. Because we'll know what we're trying to solve for and work with departments, to get to what we believe is a manageable budget for the town. Tonight, additionally, I was contacted by the Chief of Staff, I believe, of Representative Josh Tarski, who is our new state representative, and they will be joining us at our next meeting, which will be an opportunity for Josh to introduce himself to, citizens at large in the town of Dover. We also briefly discussed potentially setting up a time for him to do maybe an open house or have office hours here as well. So if residents want to talk to him and meet with him, they can do that. So more to come on that. And that is what I have to update us on.
Okay, well, you can't ever throw the stone against Mike about stealing thunder. Because
I know,
I
because
do.
you were at every meeting with me.
Exactly.
One of us was an active participant, the other one was a passive.
That's what I was going to say, to make sure the public understands that only one of us is actively participating in each of these meetings. We're both attending to educate ourselves and to make sure that we're fully informed so that when we need to make decisions, we're all on the same page. But yes, the good news on the fuel tanks is it has already been through the process. So when it has to go back through the process, it should be streamlined. But I echo what you were saying, Robin, where some questions were asked, let's address them now and not on town meeting floor and get this done well. So
And not at the next site plan review, so.
right. And then capital budget and warrant, I'm not going to be able to add anything new to what you've already said. So those are my updates as well.
Okay. And one thing I failed to mention was I was double booked on Tuesday night because it was also the open space meeting. So I didn't want to sell them short. And so what I contacted the chair and I'm going to meet with her tomorrow just so she can give me an update. I don't want them to feel as though their liaison is neglecting them. I just couldn't be at two places at once.
A couple weeks ago, I had 3 meetings at the same time.
Right.
But this too shall pass.
Right. And then the next item is 1.14, and that's your updates, Mike?
Yeah, so I don't have much more because we've talked about a lot of what was working on tonight already. Just wanted to mention 2 things. One, I'm personally very excited about. We had a couple meetings ago, Minuteman came in. And a week from tomorrow, I'm going to be attending a town administrators breakfast. So I actually get to see all the awesome stuff that they talked about.
It's amazing there.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So,
and are they giving you breakfast? Because they're students, they have an amazing kitchen there.
Yes, I'm very excited about that too. First about seeing the cool school, but then second about the food. And then the only other thing I want to mention, just while we're here, is we were looking to move your next meeting. It's currently scheduled for Wednesday, the 22nd, and we prefer to move it back to your regular meeting date of the 23rd. We couldn't find any reason why that happened. We're not quite sure. So I think, Robin, you had a chance to check that worked for you. Dave, do you know if that might work for you?
It does. So that's fine. It might have been John who was unable to make that
That's
date.
what Robin suggested. Yeah. So if that works for both of you, if you could book that in your calendar, we'll move the 22nd meeting to the 23rd. That'll be great.
It's in the calendar.
Yeah, and and I'll make sure to mention that to Josh Tarski's chief of staff. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have him just coordinate with you, Mike, after I
That's
took that.
perfect. Yep,
Right.
that's great.
Okay.
That's great. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. So that leads us to the consent agenda. And it says Robin Hunter with an I is the presenter.
Uh-oh.
Not quite sure who that is.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and I just have to give you a hard time on that. So it must be Robin, the other Robin.
You're right.
Right. So the consent agenda consists of approval of the 2025 IRS business use mileage reimbursement rate, which is set by the IRS at 70 cents per mile, and then approval of the 2025 special one-day liquor licenses for January 19th, February 2nd, and the 27th. There's not one for February 14th. That's sort of a surprise.
This must be dry January. Usually there's about 24.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think we're so used to the holiday season.
That's fair.
So I am going to move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
All right.
And unless you take 15 minutes to adjourn this meeting, I win my bet with Mona.
Oh, and I'm not going to. I would like to thank everybody. I thought there was a lot to cover on this agenda and we went through a lot. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I am going to give everybody back 15 minutes of their night. And so I'm going to move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
And just a reminder, our next scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting is Thursday, January 23rd.
Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good night.